Welcome to Tips, the Townsend Institute podcast series, a show produced by the Townsend Institute at Concordia University, Irvine. This podcast shares stories of leadership, coaching, and counseling experiences that have shaped the lives and careers of our guests, who then provide tips aimed toward helping listeners grow in both their personal and professional lives. I'm Dr. John Townsend, psychologist, organizational consultant, and author of over 30 books, including the New York Times best-selling Boundaries series. I'm also the founder of the Townsend Institute, and I'm excited to introduce your podcast hosts, Dr. Ashlie Andrew and Dr. Gilbert Fugit.
Welcome back, tipsters, to one of our final episodes of 2025. And we're saving one of the best for last. Adjunct instructor, Townsend Institute alumni, and organization consultant and coach, Rukiya Robinson, joins us today to talk all about the strategies she's used to help transform leaders and organizations.
That's right, Gilbert. It is always great to sit down with Rukiya to hear more about her latest work. Our students benefit from her experiences and insight in virtual classes, but today we're bringing some of her best E2S strategies straight to our listeners. We think this is a good one. If you do too, please give us a 5-star rating and share with your teams and leaders. Let's get started. Welcome back, everyone, to the Townsend Institute podcast series. Gilbert and I are here today with our close friend and colleague, as well as an alumni of our Townsend Institute, Rukiya Robinson. Welcome, Rukiya.
Yay. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. Good to see you both.
We are very excited to have you here. You wear a lot of hats in your life, that's for sure. I mentioned a couple of them already, and that you are an alumni of our institute, a close friend of Dr. Townsend's in the institute, and Gilbert and I as well. And you're also one of the adjunct professors in our program. So we're keeping you busy and keeping you connected.
And I love that. Thank you.
Well, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let's talk a little bit about your leadership journey, some background of what brought Rukiya from where you started to kind of where you are today, entrepreneur, boss lady, all of these great things to your resume. Talk a little bit about your leadership journey.
Okay. Well, it's funny because I really didn't start off as pursuing like a leadership journey. I started off as a lost entrepreneur, but before that, I was in HR and corporate, and before that, my first exposure to consulting was back in 2003. I can't even remember how old I was at that time, but 2003, I worked at Deloitte Consulting, and I was there for a few years. That was my first exposure to like the real consulting environment and the organization of consulting, and it was pretty amazing because I've never seen or experienced that. However, I was really intrigued. And as life went on and I went on, and I was a non-traditional student, so I started getting educated along the way. Went into HR for a little bit, and in about, I think 2008, 2009, when the economy was really, really bad. I got laid off in 2009, never been laid off before, never been unemployed before, and didn't know how to navigate that. And so that was how I ended up going into entrepreneurship, because I figured, okay, I've got to do something.
Right.
I can't not do anything. So I did start a business, and I kind of flailed around for a few years, but the relationships that I was starting to cultivate and just learning and being around successful small business owners, I was even more intrigued. So I was like, okay, I know that this is possible. I know that this can happen, but I don't really know how, because no one taught me how to be a successful entrepreneur. So that's why I kind of flailed around for a few years. But my curiosity kept me driven and kept me going and kept me motivated. And the fact that I know that this is possible. So and I was really inspired by the successful business women that I was around and and they were living this. They were living this full time. This wasn't like a side hustle. This wasn't like something that they did, on the weekends. This is what they did full time.
Yeah.
So I was really motivated, really curious. I asked a lot of questions. I was at a lot of events, and I was literally like a sponge, learning, learning, learning. That business did not succeed. However, through my inquiries and always asking, I started learning what small businesses really needed.
Mm.
So the first business started based off of what the thoughts that were in my head. Okay, well, I can do this, or I can do this, or I can do this. But once I started conversing and getting to know people and talking to people, then I started learning they don't need this at all. What they really need is what they are starting to express. And I started to see a theme
Mhm.
in what I was hearing, what small businesses needed. And it was along the lines of what I could do, which was consulting. So I kind of backed my way into consulting just by learning.
Yeah.
I started off just being a strategist, just for my own life and for my business at the time. From that failed business, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to go back to school. So I went back to school and got my bachelor's degree and got my bachelor's of science in business with a concentration in entrepreneurship and small business management. And that essentially took my vision from this to this. And I'm like, oh my God, I see everything that I did wrong in my first business, but I see how I can move forward and what I need to do to be successful in this business. But at the time, I still didn't have like a business. I had business skills, but I didn't have a business. So that after that failed business and me simultaneously going back to school, I started E2S Strategies. Now,
Mm.
E2S Strategies this was back in 2016. E2S
Okay.
Strategies initially started off as an HR consulting firm. So I took the skills that I had in corporate America and the knowledge that I had from my bachelor's in entrepreneurship and merged those two because those skills were monetizable. I could productize HR skills. So I tapped into the network that I built over those years,
Yeah.
over the years, tapped into that, and companies and small businesses were hiring me to come in as an HR consultant. Now, some of the challenges that they were experiencing it was HR, but some of them, and these things were like policy development or handbook updates or
Hmm.
development or job description or things like that. But then there were other challenges that weren't really HR, and these were the team just being disconnected or the
Mm.
leader having a disconnection with the team or the
So people
leader.
challenges, right? That's
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
a lot of
people challenges.
these were the people challenges and the people strategy and having the ability to bring them together and
Mhm.
point them in a direction where everyone can go forward. Um, not really knowing how to use, not having a vision, mission, or a vision, or not knowing how to use them. So I saw some very clear um, differences between HR and leadership challenges.
Mhm.
And what I was brought in to do was HR, but a lot of leadership challenges were the cause of some of these problems. Yes, the we need some policies in place, and yes, we need to be able to point back to these are the rules, this is how things are done according to the handbook. However, the people challenges were the challenges that I did not know how to handle at the time. So that seeing a theme there, like, wow, there's a lot of leaders really creating problems in these organizations.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I didn't know how to handle that. But I was curious. My curiosity drove me to start looking for master's programs because I told myself I was not going back to school unless Jesus himself leads me back to school. And because I was
I love
seeing,
that. I
It's
love
a
yeah,
that.
good line. There you
Yeah.
go.
because I was seeing this so frequently, I really felt like, okay, I think this might be a sign. I think I might need to go back to school
Yeah.
because I wasn't really passionate about HR. And
Mm,
this is not a slam against HR practitioners because I do have friends, really good friends that are HR practitioners and colleagues, but I wasn't passionate about HR. I
mm,
was very curious, though, about leadership behaviors and the people aspect of leadership. And living in Dallas, Texas, I started out here. I started looking at programs out here, and nothing really jumped out at me. Everything just kind of looked the same. So one of my good friends, she was also looking, and she actually recommended the Townsend Institute. I said, okay, well, let me look into that.
Oh, okay.
So I looked into the Townsend Institute, and everything just kind of lined up. And in prayer, I asked God to kind of to lead me to the right program and to confirm it. And I was led to the Townsend Institute, and it was confirmed when I heard Dr. Margaret Christmas say in one of the sessions
mhm,
said she made reference to a scripture about vocation being your
mm.
calling. And I was like, that's it. Because I was praying, I was seeking God, I was believing, like,
Oh,
okay, I really believed that I was called to do this. And she confirmed it with that specific scripture. So that was a pivotal moment in my leadership journey, career, and my entrepreneurial career. And here we are today.
Rukiya, you talk about, you talked a little bit about a lot of companies, they think they have a leadership problem, but I have loved what you have found is they actually maybe have more of a risk management problem. So kind of a
Yes.
big glaring issue they're not even sure about. Can you kind of unpack what that might be for them?
Yes. Before, so I've always been I started off my academic journey and even business journey being a strategist because the question was, how do you achieve this, right? So in strategy, you have to map out the tactical steps of or activities that needs to be done to achieve this, right? So when I was brought in to work with HR leaders or these small businesses, and I saw these problems, and the first thing that I was thinking was like, my goodness, this is a risk. Like this leader is creating risks in their organizations because when someone quits, that costs money, and then they have to take time to distribute their responsibilities and their duties, but then they have to source, they have to redo the job description and put it out on job boards, and it's timely, it's costly, and a bad behaving leader or a toxic leader that is turning their own people over, they're creating risks in their own organization. So in my head, I'm thinking the first thing I was thinking from a strategic standpoint, this is a risk. And ultimately, when I got into the Townsend Institute, the risks became more clear that an inept leader is creating risks within their organizations. And these are the leadership gaps create enterprise business risks. And this can be, whether it's turning a person over or it can be a multi-million dollar risks, which if we look at the news, we can see a lot of these risks happening in the news that, some of these challenges that are making the news, right? So when I look at leadership development as risk management, I look at closing these gaps that creates these risks in the first place. So when you think of risk management, you are being proactive in mitigating these risks versus being reactive by just getting trained. See the
Yeah.
difference? So
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
how I kind of shaped our business model, if you will, to be proactive risk mitigators, which ultimately saves an organization hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars, if you can get ahead of the risk or in front of the risk to mitigate it where it doesn't even happen in the first place, so
Right.
that they're equipped to deal with these people challenges
Hmm.
effectively in a way where the risks are mitigated
Do you find
or
a lot of
minimized.
organizations, is it hard for them to comprehend that, to think about, hey, let's be proactive rather than, because that costs money, right? I mean, that takes
Yes,
resources rather than just, hey, let's just wait. If nothing happens, okay, so let's just wait and
absolutely.
wait for the hammer to fall. So,
Absolutely. I will tell you the sell is harder
Hmm.
because the perspective of leadership development is not viewed as risk management. It's viewed as, okay, we're going to get training or go through a training or go through a workshop or we're going to go through coaching. That it does not translate into risk management. So part of my job as a small business owner, and then in our marketing and how we're communicating why this is risk management, or to be open to a new perspective that leadership development is risk management and why, then they're more open to the idea of the options for development versus what's familiar. Let's just throw everybody in coaching or let's just put everybody into a training program, things like that. So it took me a while to get to a point where it was not even a mindset shift for those that I speak to and those that, we're serving as an organization, but it was a mindset shift for me as well before I could go out to the world to, share this perspective. It was a mindset shift for me. And it was the idea came out of my capstone in the Townsend program. Is executive development, is that mitigating risks? Like that was the question.
Yeah.
That was what my research was around. And amazingly, it wasn't that much research around connecting the two, whether executive development mitigates risks in enterprises or organizations. So I was like, I might be onto something here.
Absolutely.
you,
Absolutely.
you
Well, you
just made
definitely are.
you just made Ashley's day when you said it came out of your capstone. Like her
Uh,
It
eyes like
it
brightened
I
up.
was
did.
so
Oh my
excited.
goodness.
This is
Yeah.
wonderful. This is wonderful. No, we love to hear that. And those are the types of questions that we want our students, asking. And then to then be able to take it and answer it and then be able to provide backing to it to then here you are, 10 years later, nearly 10 years later, still working to kind of help bring that executive development, which, is so important. I'm recognizing some ideas here about alignment and how important it is for everyone in a company or organization to be aligned, to kind of be on that
Hmm.
same path or that same boat.
Hmm.
And oftentimes we refer to an organization's their mission, their vision, their core values as what are supposed to be those aligning factors. But you
Hmm.
say in your years now, 100% of the companies that you've worked with oftentimes misuse their vision, mission, and core values. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that. And what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I found it really interesting because when I get called in, and I ask a lot of questions. So I have become the queen of question asking and listening. So, and I learned that in Townsend, by the way.
Mhm, mhm. I
So
love
I
that.
have mastered attuning and asking questions. So in my discovery process, And because I have a background in strategy and a background in business, I know the questions to ask.
Yeah.
So I will ask some really deep questions
Hmm.
or some really complex questions. And once I start gathering information, then I'm learning, oh, it's not that the symptom or what they are thinking is the symptom, all of our team challenges, and the leader not being able to get everyone on board or motivate everyone or point them all in the right direction. You really don't know how to use your mission, or you really are not modeling your core values, or you don't have the right mission in the first place, or you don't have the right core values in the first place. So if you don't really know how to use the vision and the mission and the core values as strategic elements or strategic
Mm.
tools,
Mm-hmm.
and learn how to operationalize them in a way that a leader can take them and or take the strategy, take the vision, take the mission, take the core values, and one, be able to demonstrate them and model them in a way where if a team is just observing their behavior, they will know, well, this is how we do things around here just by observing. Additionally, if the leader is having challenges, and I've seen this, and the reason why I say 100% of the time, they always attributed their internal challenges to everything but the ability to take these strategic tools and lead their team with them.
Mm.
And so it's just been amazing that it has been 100% because I've seen I've seen leaders totally dismiss the value of mission or dismiss the value of their core values. And I've heard them, oh, I don't really believe in that. I mean, it looks good and this is what our mission says, but we don't really follow that. And I'm thinking, well, this is why you're having
Yeah.
challenges with your team because you don't know how to use this strategically in a way where it guides your leadership style and your leadership in a way where it impacts and influences the team to be productive or to move together cohesively or to have shared understanding on what we're all doing here and why. So it's been unfortunate, but when I position it that way, then the light bulb goes off and it's like, oh, okay. And then from there, sometimes we have to update or
Yeah.
redo the mission where it aligns with the company or the DNA of the company, which ultimately the leader, if they're using this strategically and using it in the way that they were created to be used, then they can shape the culture. But you can't shape the culture if you don't have strategic tools to shape them with.
Yeah. Oh, good. I like that. You can't shape the culture unless you have the tools to shape them with. And you know what? And I think it's good too because you can allow the leader and the whole organization to go back and say, okay, well, what is part of the reason that we're not leaning in to our mission or our values as well as we
Hmm.
should? And maybe it is because they are outdated or they no longer really match what the goal of the organization is, right? Especially for those that see a lot of growth or transformation, it's okay to go back and change it up. Sometimes they might just need to be revised. And then that's, I'm
Yeah.
sure, a process you can kind of help walk them through.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
and I know in your work out there, Rukiya, you've seen a lot of um, like false information, right? I mean, in the Townsend Institute, we talk about competence and character and connection, all those things and stuff. But there's some myths out there that a lot of leaders, organizations. What's the boldest leadership myth you'd like to bust once and for all? I like this. We're busting up myths here.
I would say the boldest myth buster, only because I've seen this so many times and I see it now, that tenured executives or executives that's been in their role for years. These are very highly educated, highly experienced executives, do not need accountability, support, or executive development. That is the hugest, the biggest myth because I think that it's very important that the more responsibility that an executive has, the more demands there are on their roles,
Mm-hmm.
and there's more responsibility on them. And with that comes, it can come with stress, it can come with a load of, it comes with a load of things that just being a senior leader may not have to carry. So going into an executive leadership or even board leadership, and just depending on the company. So I'm saying maybe 50 million plus or 25 million plus up to 9 and 10 figures. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with that.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you look at the news right now, there are some organizations that are in the news right now. And if you think about the responsibility that that executive has to carry in managing all of that, managing the company reputation, managing the PR, managing their senior leaders, and then managing, everything that flows down from that. They are human. They do need support, and it's okay to get support, to ask for support, and to have executive level support.
We've heard that adage a lot of times that leaders should be readers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Continually,
Yes.
learning. And sometimes, you get to the top, so to speak, and you've earned your way to the top. But sometimes it's those leaders at the top that are the most out of touch with what the
Mm-hmm.
culture of the organization
Absolutely.
is all about. And you've referenced culture here a few times. But talk about it a little bit, because oftentimes we hear, yeah, culture is important. But how do you translate this idea of the importance of culture in an organization into actual measurable business performance?
I think that that's such a really great question, because depending on who you're talking to, you may get a different response, right?
Mhm.
So because I've seen different approaches to culture development, for me, as a leadership practitioner, as an organizational strategist, culture is an outcome, regardless if it's a healthy culture or a dysfunctional culture. It is an outcome of accumulated events or compounded events that happened over a period of time.
Mm.
As I mentioned, depending on whose responsibility it is, culture development can be an initiative. And a lot of times you may see HR have that responsibility to develop the culture. And that's a perspective. And then you'll have a perspective from, other professionals or practitioners. From my perspective, culture is an accumulation of consistent leadership behaviors over time. It
Mhm.
is how leaders and employees engage with each other over time. It is how employees are treating their customers and creating a customer experience over time. And the result of that, good, bad, or indifferent, is essentially the culture. So how do you measure that?
Yeah.
It's measured by employee retention.
Mhm.
It's measured by customer satisfaction. It's measured by how we engage each other, how leaders and employees engage one another. It's measured by the level of trust employees have with their leaders.
Mhm.
And likewise, and that goes two ways. The employees have to trust the leaders. The leaders also have to trust and believe in their employees, but also be able to articulate that,
Mhm.
and communicate that. So, thinking about risk, for example, a leader with the inability to communicate effectively to their team, the strategy, and then knowing how to get everyone on board, committed, and then motivating them, that can create a risk in the organization, but it also can impact or influence the culture because there are always some people in organizations, they're going to talk, regardless if it's good, bad, or indifferent,
Uh-huh.
people are
Right.
going to talk.
Yes.
So, whatever people are saying, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, that's also part of their perception of what the culture is. So, in terms of measuring that, um, it can be measured by assessments. One being proactive in we are going to be proactive in developing a healthy culture. And what a healthy culture is, that has to be defined. That's something that I've talked with some of my clients about. Okay, we want a healthy culture, but what does that look like? Define what a
Right.
healthy culture looks like.
Mhm.
Let's put this in 3 bullets or 3 or 4 bullets. Like one word, this is what healthy culture looks like. Okay, so how do we get there? How do we measure that? This can be measured through assessments. This can be measured through a leader's 360. This can be measured through employee engagement surveys. And as I mentioned earlier, in employee retention. And you can see it at the end of the year when they're looking at, the bottom line, how much money was saved in costs in hiring or,
Right.
developing or whatever the line item expense is. So those are ways that I think that culture can be measured.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. They say, "Oh, I want this culture of feedback," right? Oh, we gotta give each other feedback, and then you give the leader feedback, and they give you a 45-minute monologue on why you're wrong. So then that nobody wants to give the feedback anymore. I've seen that happen before. So, all right, so Jesus led you to Townsend, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he led you here to Townsend.
Jesus himself.
He brought you here. How does your faith though, because that's very important to you, how does it influence you as you approach leadership development and consulting in this work you do with ETS strategies?
To me, this is stewardship,
Mm.
Mm,
and stewardship comes with responsibility. So, because this is what I do full time, there's a responsibility that comes with that. And so, if I am going into an organization, my faith tells me that all things are possible. And all things are possible to those who believe. And I believe that it was possible for me to have a successful consulting firm. At the
Mhm.
time, I didn't know what that looked like, but over time, it evolved and it continues to evolve. So, just like the word tells us that God will take us from faith to faith, to glory, I continue to do that because that is essentially my part of evolution. So I look at leaders in organizations the same way. Their leadership ability is stewardship. Their ability to lead at an enterprise level and minimize risks as best as they can. Risk will always be there, but to
Right.
keep them, to minimize them as best as possible, that is stewardship. To be able to provide employment for employees and that's providing salaries for their families
yeah.
and benefits and things like that. You have to be able to lead at a level that you have viable products and services that sells to a market that is willing to purchase these products and services. And this is essentially the cycle that keeps money coming into the door. But
Mhm.
as enterprises or businesses grow and grow and grow, they get more complex. The more layers that are added to the organizations, they get more and more complex. And to be able to lead at that level where you are essentially a leader's employees is essentially their flock. To be able to take care of them, for me, I look at that as stewardship and responsibility. And that's how I approach
Mm.
my work when I go into organizations and do work with them.
Wow. That's so great. I sense it. I can hear it in your voice as you talk about how passionate you are about this and really helping to kind of shepherd, right, these leaders in these organizations to whatever their next level might be,
Absolutely.
right? Kind of
Yeah.
meet them where they are and then decide where are we going from here. So many great facets of information from your experience, and also going back, Rukiya, we appreciate your vulnerability and talking about, early on in your career, your first business, it didn't get off the ground, right? And
It
that's
did
going to be
not.
that's the fact of the matter, though, for the
It did not.
majority of people. And you know what? Sometimes you probably learn the most from the
Absolutely.
opportunities that don't make it. I do. That's amazing. Well, tell our listeners, where can they find more about you? Or maybe we've got leaders or business owners that are listening to this podcast right now and they're like, hey, we need someone like Rukiya to come in and
Yes.
talk with us. Where can they find more on your E2S strategies?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me, Rukiya Robinson, I'm on LinkedIn, and my headline is Executive Transformation Strategist and C-Suite Performance Partner, and we work with underperforming leadership teams. We integrate neuroscience, emotional intelligence, and leadership psychology into the organizational strategy. That's the key. We bring those two together. And you can also find more information about our company, E2S Strategies, by going to www.e2sstrategies.com. And that is two S's. So E2S and S strategies.com.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, so many great. I mean, I know I've checked out your stuff here on a variety of different areas, but yeah, your LinkedIn is what you have so many
Yes.
great articles and some of your posts and the things and you keep it relevant, right? I love it. The way you whether it's
This is
changes in seasons or
this
whether
is the
it's
real.
big hot button issues coming up and you find a way to apply your strategies and some of your leadership philosophy to kind of what's going on here and now. So it's a great follow for anyone
I,
out there.
I
Thank
think the
you.
correct term is it's spicy, right? It's
There
not
you go.
bland. You're gonna get in
Well,
there and
good, good,
you're gonna
good.
hear something. So yeah.
Yeah, a lot of what I do requires me to do research. This is why I need to jump on into a PhD program. But
Yeah.
Well, we're
but
working on it.
a lot of what I do requires a lot of research. I don't know if you all have seen this or not yet, but there is a revolution going on right now. This is based off the research that I just learned recently. As a matter of fact, boards are looking at interim leadership, meaning fractional leadership is an option. So putting
Mhm.
fractional CEOs or fractional C-suite professionals in these roles versus hiring a full-time CEO, bringing him or she on $500,000 salary plus an executive package plus all the pluses, but not really knowing how they're going to perform. What research is telling us is today you
Mhm.
cannot base a hire off of a C-suite's past performance or what they did at the previous company because every company is unique. All of their challenges are unique. So you can't duplicate or replicate what you did here and take it into a new organization. So
Mm.
I found that it was really interesting that CEO exits are accelerating and boards are
Mm.
considering interim leadership.
There you
So
go.
I'm going to be
That's
talking about that. I'm going to be talking about
that'll be
that
a
on
new one coming
LinkedIn.
up. Well, Rikia, as we end all episodes here, we always ask for a takeaway tip that our listeners, could walk away with. What would your tip be for them today?
My tip would be, I would say for practitioners that are in doing this line of work, because it can get challenging at times. But if you
Yes.
really believe with everything in you that this is part of your calling and what God has called you to do and who you are, that regardless of any challenges, that believe in what God has called you to do it to be and to follow that, because God has promised to lead us and to guide us and to take care of us. And as we go out into the field and do this work, that He will, continue to take care of us. So just remain in faith and keep fighting the good fight.
Remain
love
faithful.
that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Rukiya, we can't thank you enough for pouring into our listeners and us here today, just like you continue to do in the classes that you teach here at the Townsend Institute and the consultant work that we know you do. So thank you so much for sharing some of your
Absolutely.
insight with all of us today. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a joy being here with you all today and speaking with you as well. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Rukiya.
Absolutely.
If you enjoy the Townsend Institute podcast series, head to our website at cui.edu/Townsend to find out more about the certificates, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees offered through Concordia University, Irvine. With programs in mental health counseling, executive coaching and consulting, and organizational leadership, we have a variety of faith-based programs dedicated to helping you fulfill your academic and professional goals, all the while furthering your competence, character, and connection. Again, that's cui.edu/Townsend.